G'day, guys. Welcome back to another week of the NRL Supercoach Talk Draft Waiver Wire podcast. It's Chris and Simon back again, feeling pretty deflated looking at these team lists this week. It's like the bloody Red Wedding, mate. Game of Thrones just taken over Team List Tuesday. How you going?
Oh, good, mate. I mean, you sound like you want to get a Game of Thrones spoiler in there for the fans.
Oh, mate. Look, maybe at the end.
No, with no spoilers here. Don't listen to it. We won't spoil anything. I'm sure there's people out there that are going, Jesus, you guys listen to Thrones. I'm tuning off. But, yeah, we're no spoilers on this podcast. And, yes, mate, it is a war of attrition here as just Suncorp Stadium took a toll.
Yeah, mate. I tell you what, bloody good weekend. Really awesome weekend of footy. And the only real negative thing I've got to say about it is kind of two things. The price of a beer is one.
Ridiculous.
And the price of a bloody drink tray is two.
It is, mate. They've got to find a way to. But, I mean, do they have to find a way? People will complain, but they'll still turn up. It's just one of those things. So the nature of the beast.
I proceeded to complain my way through just ridiculous amounts of beer.
Excuse me. For our younger listeners, drink responsibly.
We're rugby league fans. I mean, seriously, come on,
mate. I'm getting a poke in the back from the legal team here in the room. Just
Yeah, fair call. But seriously, $9.20 for a.
That's just ridiculous. My goodness, you do a life savings in a weekend if you weren't careful. But anyway, mate, so let's jump into these team lists, and I'm excited to see this could be one of the better weeks, if not the more interesting weeks. And it's going to be, I'm very curious to see some of your feelings on whether these guys are waiverable or not. So let's get stuck in.
Okay, well, first game of the round, Storm at home to Wests, and there's probably going to be a lot of guys on this list that probably are going to have to be forced up to being waivers, even though we probably wouldn't normally say so, just because this is just brutal looking across these teams. Pappenhausen is named in the fullback spot, which is going to be the big news. Probably good that we get to that straight off the top, because he's going to be a huge name across Supercoach circles this week, both classic and draft combined. What do you make of him? Because Jerome Hughes is out with the concussion from that HIA, probably 1 week, but he's obviously just looked amazing last weekend. So, how high do you go on a guy like that? It's so hard.
I don't think Jerome Hughes has done enough to lose his spot, though, has he? Like, we're not concerned about that, but I guess the question is, will Pappenhausen keep a spot in the back line with that performance? You know, is he robust enough to play in the centres over Seve?
Yeah, well, he probably is. I think what's more likely is that Brodie Croft hasn't played well enough to keep his spot.
Fully agree.
And there is a likelihood that if Pappenhausen shows anything at fullback, Jerome Hughes hasn't done anything to lose his spot, but I can see a scenario where Hughes' flexibility could push him to halfback with Croft out of the side if Pappenhausen proves to just be undroppable.
Yeah, it's a big week, and because of the matchup, obviously against the Tigers, it's sort of ripe for that whole, him to come in and just steal that spot. So I'm going to say if your imagination runs wild, you can go as high as you like in terms of a waiver claim. I'm very curious to see how the rest of the waivers play out first before I go just anointing him as a guy I'd spend a super high claim on.
Yeah, so looking at him here, he's only fullback available too. So he's not dual, which is definitely going to.
I'm with you, mate. If CTW was in the mix, I think that might actually change the narrative a little bit. But just as a fullback, not as valuable.
Yeah, I do agree, but I think he's pretty. I still think he's pretty juicy.
He's a lottery pick, isn't he, mate? We say these, like Payne Haas before him, those guys that could, if all goes his way, this could be just the pickup of the season. So yeah.
No, he's good. Marion Seve. He takes his Curtis Scott's position, who's out for a while now with the injured foot. He's probably, I think you've mentioned him in previous weeks about the lack of upside. So he's probably not really a go, is he?
Nah, he's a deeper sort of a 16-man league. I think he's a starter in your CT dub, but anything less than that just doesn't have the upside.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so over to Wests. Look, their team's pretty well. I think it's unchanged from last week. But what I think needs to be mentioned is the fact that Mahe Fanua played a lot of centre with Robert Jennings actually pushing out to the wing.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't like it for Masters, because I think Masters ended up switching sides to the left to accommodate Fanua to play right centre. So I guess the only person that's remotely interesting there for me is Fanua. If he is on waivers, he's probably worth a sneaky look if he does end up playing centre again. But other than that, that's probably it.
Yep.
Not Eisenhuth. You want to go? You kind of not really.
Not really. I mean, interesting there. Garner's now not even. He's just in the reserves, so that's obviously come and gone as a moment. Look, he's fine. I guess there's the chance that the minutes go his way, but I think you've seen Madison McQueen sort of settling into those 80-minute roles.
Yep. No, I do agree there. All right, on to the next game. Friday, 6 o'clock. The Panthers at home to the Warriors. The Panthers, they've made a lot of changes, and rightfully so, because they were really, really poor.
Yeah, they've had to do that. I think Dallin's pretty lucky to still be the pick there as well, just quietly. But I think, it's odd what's happened to Josh Mansour. It's a shame those injuries have just sort of evidently taken their toll. I really feel, for the guy, that he was a great player to watch, but probably not in a great spot right now. Dylan Edwards back in, mate. If you're drafting, he was drafted as a starter in 10-team leagues as that sort of low-end fullback option that you and I both kind of liked for that safe floor. I'm going to get on board, mate, and I like the matchup as well. I'm going to say that this is one of those, when you've seen players get dropped, they come in, have a good couple of seasons, get dropped, have to find their form. That guy will be eager, the runs will be there, and he cannot play worse he did at the start of the year, so I've got a waiver claim here.
Yeah, I think he's a waiver claim too. No pun intended, with Brian 2, named Fred.
Oh, you are on.
Do not waiver claim Brian 2. Or Dylan Edwards. Which one is it? Look, go Dylan Edwards, mate. I think he goes pretty good. He's got to have that file lit under him. So, yeah, well worth the claim and plays the first bye.
Got a weird feeling the Penny Panthers might score some points this weekend with these changes too. So I really think, good for a chance of some upside here for some of these guys.
I also don't mind the look of Liam Martin as well after 1 week off. He's back at lock, which has Fisher Harris keeping his spot in the second row. I do suspect, though, that they might actually play opposite positions. I think Martin may play second row with Fisher Harris at lock. So that remains to be seen. Either way, I don't mind. Don't mind the look of Martin as a possible low-end waiver, but we'll see.
What sort of minutes are you expecting there, mate?
Well, looking at the bench, I think he might get sort of your 60, 65 minutes. But if he plays second row, it really actually is a bit of a toss of a coin whether Kikau sees 80 minutes here, because he's underdone.
He's underdone. I'm very surprised he played last week. I think that's a mistake by the coaching staff there. I mean, that's not to say I'm not an expert with injuries or anything, but you watch that guy, mate, and he looks like he's trotting around. Poor bugger, clearly not fit.
No. The fact that he had one run in probably the first 30 minutes of the game just summed it all up, really. I mean, they were getting towed, but yeah, you expect more from a guy like him if he was fit. Also, pretty brutal to see Wade Egan gets the flick as well.
Yeah, gets the flick, and then you see, and also Regan Campbell-Gillard. There's a fall from grace from the form he showed last year. No, not super fantasy relevant, but wow.
Tim Grant's in the team, and he's not. Wow.
Tim Grant is apparently a better option than Regan Campbell-Gillard. I mean, I can only imagine that's sending a message, to be honest, to the whole team, because I can't see how he'd be a worse player. But anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, that sums it up for the Panthers. There's a bit of action there. What about the Warriors, mate? Look, Nathaniel Roach, you wanted to wait a week. Now you've seen it. What do you think?
Yeah, he's just a good player, isn't he?
Yeah,
He's just a really good player. Interesting. So the minute rotation, mate. To be honest, I should have that up on my screen. Very curious how those minutes played out.
Carl Lawton only played 19 minutes, but it's a bit hard to see because from the ground, obviously, you don't keep up with many of the rotations. But I know that Tavanga got sent for a HIA in that match.
Yep.
And I feel like it meant that Roach come back on a bit earlier than he normally would and kind of played a roving role, or him and Lawton kind of shared the roving role with the hooker spot. So I do think Roach's minutes may have been inflated a little bit.
Yep.
But probably not heaps, but still needs to be mentioned.
So with his little sneaky bit of upside he has, like sort of maybe a 60-minute role, he's probably low-end startable.
Yeah, and I think in the CTW this week, CTW is going to be very hard to fill out with the injuries that have occurred and also just these couple of drops. I think Roach is probably worth a play there.
Yep.
As a third or fourth CTW.
Like it.
Just to retouch on Patrick Herbert as well. Geez, that couldn't have gone much worse with a goal-kicking centre winger scoring, I think it was 19 or 23, something like
23, yeah.
I mean, wow. Not good, but still worth a bench stash at this point.
I believe so as well. Not a bad matchup either. There should be points in this game.
Yep. Friday, 7:55, the Broncos at home to the Roosters. Now, the Broncos, they've recalled Zarko, but your mate Jimmy the Jet still no good.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he's just a hold till further notice with the hope that he ends up at South Sydney, really.
Yeah, he has to go somewhere. This is clearly not working. Whatever gripe there is between him and the coaching staff. Shibasaki, I think he scored 35 on the weekend on the wing. Didn't look amazing. But he didn't do anything overly wrong either. Are you kind of interested at all now that he's at centre?
No, not with the matchup either, and with the bye round coming up in round 12, I can't really get on board for a waiver claim. You can stash if you want, but I guess you've also got the chance that Roberts does finally, stop doing the wrong thing at training or whatever it is that he's pissed off Seabold with. So, not a lot of interest there for me. If Asako was dropped though, can be picked up. He'll definitely take over the kicking from Cantoni, won't he?
I would imagine, yeah. I mean, Staggs didn't show anything with the boot.
No.
Really?
No, he's not a noted goal kicker. So you imagine that makes Asako startable again. It's a tough matchup, though, to come back into. But same sort of logic with Dylan Edwards. I think he'll be hungry, you'd have to imagine. So the work rate should be up.
Yeah, that's right. Should be up. But I don't love it, the fact that he's playing outside of Shibasaki, but yeah, because I just don't think that there's a lot of creativity going on there. I mean, obviously, with Jack Bird out, Shibasaki could keep that spot all year, which could be really bad news for Asako if Roberts does go off to the Bunnies, which we kind of think might happen eventually. Also, Jimmy Seguiaro, what do you reckon? Is he going to see any minutes here?
Check it. Well, currently named in the 18. I mean, I tell you what I would like to see, mate, and this is probably more of an interesting Supercoach discussion. If you own any of these Broncos forwards, you are all about Seguiaro being named on a bench. Take one of those forwards away from the bench, and hopefully that means better minutes for the rest of them.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, because having that 80-minute hooker really does lessen the impact of those others, that's for sure.
And considering Haas is obviously commanding that sort of 60 minutes, it doesn't leave a lot for the rest of them. So, but anyway, mate, in terms of Seguiaro, obviously he's not waiverable being named in the 18, but I think listeners of the show for the last few years will know that I think we're both pretty big fans of Seguiaro when he gets enough minutes. So look, if you want to stash him, I'm fine with that, but just keep in mind week 12 bye.
Yeah, no, he might be completely irrelevant if you play buys because you'll probably have to drop him when that first round comes up. But if you don't play buys, much more interesting.
But watch the later team list, because if he does suddenly get named to start, I guess as well, while we're here, we should really talk about Turpin. What did you think? Like, I think he had a low sort of 40 score. That's not bad for a hooker.
He was solid enough, but I don't really rate him for Supercoach. Not at the moment.
No, that's fair.
I wasn't overly. Well, I didn't think he played badly. He just didn't set the world on fire either. He was just solid in real life and solid in Supercoach. So it was probably just what it was.
Yep.
Over for the Roosters. Now, Daniel Tupou has somehow been named after getting carted off the field on the weekend, which is quite amazing. I don't really know if I can buy into him actually playing, given that it's a Friday game. But I mean, what do you make of that? If you're a Tupou owner, would you be making arrangements there?
Yeah, certainly have your backup CT dub ready to go. It's nice and early in the round, so I think it's not that big of a deal, really.
Yeah, and obviously the Latrell Mitchell owners too had him leave the field but come back on, so you'd imagine he'd be right to play. I don't mind Ikavalu here. I think Ikavalu might be a sneaky matchup play this week, because I think the Broncos haven't been as good as what people have been saying since they won on the weekend against Manly.
They've beaten 2 reserve sides in the last 2 weeks. They've looked like last 2 games that they've looked good in. This could be one of those just super flat attacking performances again, with Milford just bombing to the wing. But you do know Milf's a bit of a form, like a hot and cold player, so there's a chance that he builds. But they'd have to play this forward pack of the Bronx. This would have to be when they step up.
Yeah. At least the Roosters are without Boyd Cordner. So if you're owner of Cordner, you're looking for a centre winger, Orbison's got that duel, so he's always been a Mr. Fix-It and a regular of the Supercoach podcast.
He's really, mate. If we were to put just a permanent sort of banner, we'd ask Orbo for his image rights, because he again becomes relevant this week. If he's sitting out there, especially in deeper leagues, he's a starter. Get him in.
Yeah, funnily enough, he is a starter. He is. Last thing on the Chooks is I see Ryan Hall's named on the extended bench. I don't mind him as a free agency pickup.
Wow. Okay. What you think with the minutes that Takiaho's commanding this year? Do you think there's a chance he gets enough to be relevant?
Well, look, I just reckon that if Tupou's out, I'd say that Hall just takes his spot and is a good little sneaky little lad there, because obviously.
Yeah. Wow.
Hang on, the dog's going. Oi. Fuck now. Hang on a sec.
It's all good.
Yeah. Oi. Yeah. You there?
Yeah, mate. Cut out that bit of Ryan Hall. Anyway, I actually got confused as to who that was. I thought he was a prop. I forgot about who he was.
Fuck. What did we say? I'll just say someone I don't mind on the Roosters.
Yeah, go start with that. Yeah,
Right.
just make sure you cut out, otherwise it'll sound weird. So somebody don't mind the Roosters, Ryan Hall. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, mate, someone I don't mind on the Roosters is Ryan Hall, named in the 21 jersey. Just with the off chance that if Tupou was to get ruled out, he might make his way onto that left wing spot. And he's an international player at his best, obviously coming off the ACL. So a sneaky one to watch if you are a Tupou owner, or even if you're just looking for upside in your CTW this week. Just as a sneaky free agent, might not be the worst look. Is there anyone else for the Roosters that you're interested in this week?
Nah, mate, happy to move on.
All right, sounds good. Moving on to the Saturday games. So the Titans are at home to the Bulldogs. Now, for the Titans, Brimson, mate, he's at fullback.
Oof.
Huge.
Tell you what, big news. Obviously, easily fire. It's very easy to fire him up this week against the Bulldogs. I think, really big in. Get amongst him if he's in waivers. He obviously started last week in 5/8, so it's unlikely he would be. Do you think there's a chance that again, we keep saying if he has a big week, he could hold that position for the rest of the year? Is this a potential buy low, sell high? Where are you at with him?
I think he's probably somebody that if you've been holding for all this time, this is obviously the news you want. So you're probably not going to be selling unless you get a great offer for him. But it's hard to tell because when Michael Gordon returns, because I think from all reports he's not out for very long.
Yeah, only a week.
So yeah, it is an opportunity to sell. No, don't get me wrong, because when Gordon returns, if he ends up taking that fullback spot back, Brimson just goes back to the bench. Or what we hope happens, and Gordon goes to the wing. It really is a crossroads, I guess, with value on Brimson, which makes him both sellable and also attainable. So depends on what you're feeling at the time. Also, be remiss if we didn't mention Tyrone Roberts again. He'll be kicking this week, surely.
He will be kicking this week, and it probably is I think he's an okay sort of speculative play in this matchup.
Yeah, it's a great matchup, really good matchup. I didn't mind the look of Jesse Arthurs on the weekend either. It was a really interesting rotation that they did. When Arthurs came on, what they did was they actually pushed Copley into centre and then Peachy to second row, and Cartwright played lock with Arrow moving up to play in the front row for a little while. One of the most obscure, I guess, reshuffles you've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, good luck. So it's very creative. I tend to think that doesn't work too well, but for real life purposes. But for fantasy, I guess how many minutes do you think Arthurs could potentially get from the bench there?
Maybe 60 at most. He might come on after 20 minutes or so. See how he goes.
Yeah, not bad. Obviously, with the bye coming up as well, could be relevant. More of a speculative one there for me.
Yeah, I guess it just depends if you think that Peachy is going to play Origin. If he plays Origin, then Arthurs could be interesting, but someone we might touch on in a couple of weeks. On to the Bulldogs then. So there seems to always be interesting team news with the Dogs. Harawira and Iris back, which was to be expected after only missing last weekend. I think it was due to a family illness or something like that, maybe even the death of the family. Reece Martin's back on the interchange bench, which is just another tale in the Reece Martin story this year, which has been frustrating. Owners of him. It's a good matchup against the Titans. So is there anyone here that kind of catches your eye as remotely startable off waivers?
So just to confirm the team list you've got, have you got Carrot Holland back in the centres this week?
I have Montoya.
Okay, I thought that might have been and not a correct list. So not really, mate. For the life of me, I'm not going to go too long about it, but Reece Martin on the bench, I think he's really the only interesting player here. Hopefully you sold high on Ockenbaugh because that looks like it's on its way down, and probably very lucky to keep his spot in the side, to be honest. But just Reece Martin, mate, is he a buy low? Like, surely at some point he comes back into the starting team with big minutes as a goal kicker, right?
You imagine so. You imagine so, but then you've also got the Fatala Mariner conundrum as well. Like, I know he's injured at the moment, but when you're looking at some of these guys, these Fualalos, Suaso Su, guys of that type of ilk, getting regular runs in this team. When you throw Fatala Mariner in, that's just one too many cooks in the kitchen. So Martin is probably a buy low just in the sense of the word of how he is now. But once he does get that spot back, I wouldn't be too disappointed if someone was to then try and go and sell him with the thought that Fatala Mariner and that could be back, and just take the chance to sell him that they've been waiting for.
Yeah, it's fair. Like, you probably don't want to be selling him now, I think, is what I'm hearing there, because you're not going to get full value. So I don't mind a specky buy low because of the outcomes. But yeah, as you said, you might then have to sell him again sort of high to make sure you're not going to lose out. But interesting one. But the rest of that side, mate, I just think the Bulldogs really are a team you want to stay away from this year.
Yeah, they look terrible. Speaking of terrible, the Cowboys and Eels.
Oh,
geez, some really shocking performances on Magic Round last week for both of these two sides.
So Matt Scott's still starting. I almost feel sorry at the moment in this space. It just, the old Warhorse, absolute great player, but like, how's he still starting? What's happened?
Yeah, I don't know, and I also don't know what Gideon Geller-Mosby. Look, he must have done some really bad stuff because he should be in this team in that back line somewhere.
Ben Hampton's not a winger, mate. We've been saying it for quite some time. That's just clearly a miscast role. It's confusing. Green's led people to a title, but in terms of Supercoach, mate, it makes it tough to get excited about any of these guys outside of Taumalolo.
Yeah, like they're just such grinders. They've got much flair. They're really just a bunch of forwards and really uninspiring backs, apart from Michael Morgan. It's just pretty sad, but yeah, not really very much interest there. For the Eels, there's been a couple of changes, I guess, with George Dennings coming into the team to take over from Sivo, who's out suspended. Josh Hoffman's been named to take over from Michael Jennings, who's out for a couple of weeks. And also Manu Ma'u starts at lock, finally pushing Moeroa back.
Yeah, there it is. It took that sort of game to see that Moeroa should go to the bench. I know I like to pile on there, but that was pretty straightforward. Also, I guess we finally saw Jamin Salmon dropped after real rough performance. So Will Smith, he's a handy little footballer, has been known to hit a bit upside. In what could actually be a good matchup, can you get on board with that, potentially looking forward to that Week 12 bye?
Yeah, I think this is a real sneaky one. And he's usually 5'8" hooker eligible too, so he's got that nice little dual you can use. He's probably not the worst pickup this week if you're in need of either of those two positions.
I'm actually going to go low-end waiver because if you play the bye round. I think I could justify that.
Yeah, it's kind of saving you one.
It really is, and it could just get you that little march come around 12. So, but it just as a low-end potential starter in a side that should be a lot better than they were against the Storm, kind of an aberration almost. But I feel like he could get amongst it.
Yeah, it's a good little sneaky ad. The last Saturday game has got the Raiders at home to the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now for the Raiders, Rapana's out again, and obviously Leilua's out for the season, which is really sad for league owners or any league fan really, is to see Leipana out of the team altogether and out for the season, which sees Oldfield go to the wing. And an interesting position switch with Kotrick going to centre.
He's big enough. It's an odd one. Like, he doesn't get the ball enough, Kotrick, to really be Supercoach relevant, and it's a bit strange because he looks like he could be a weapon. I feel like this actually could be good for him.
Yeah, this could be great for his fantasy output because it means he's going to get the ball more.
It does. An early ball with his sort of athletic style. I've got to feel this is a good one. I'm definitely with the Week 12 bye as well. I'm going claim here.
Yeah,
because I think you would have been dropped in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, he's had quite a disappointing season. You're really liking it too, and I'm not saying he's ever going to reach these heights, but his start to the season was a lot like Valentine Holmes last year, when Holmes was on the wing and he was kind of just needing a try to get to 50 or things like that, and then just that one positional switch really set him alight. You could see the same thing with Kotrick this year if this is the catalyst.
Yeah, I'm all about it, mate. And obviously being fullback eligible as well, you could be sort of getting that extra bit of value there. So I like the move. I think it's interesting.
And obviously Bailey Simonson's back in the team. He's a name just because of his performances in the lower grades, but for what we've seen of him in first grade, not someone that you'd be picking up off waivers. For South, though, it gets a bit more interesting with the news that Alex Johnston's going to be out for about 4 weeks, which sees Corey Allen get a spot in his much preferred fullback jersey. Problem with Allen, I suppose, is that he hasn't really looked hasn't really looked that dangerous. Even I know he's out of position on the wing, but often you see guys who are touted as out and out superstars still look somewhat threatening out in the wing, but he really doesn't seem to be. Well, at least didn't appear to be doing too well out there in the wing.
Doesn't really look for the ball, mate. He really doesn't look for the ball. It's just his go. And do you think? I mean, the only thing working in his favour here is potential. Obviously, the base stat increase, because obviously Johnson likes to just palm it off a lot. But I just think the attacking structure of South is not going to change much, and I just don't see Allen being brought in to sweep all that often.
Yeah, I don't get overly excited when I see that he's there at fullback, which is weird because you should be all up and about someone who plays that by young up and coming player,
fullback eligible.
Yeah, like normally I'd be just real keen, but I just don't feel it.
Well, they've got two dominant halves now. I just I mentioned to you and to the listeners in last couple of weeks, we sort of see that you can only really accommodate two Supercoach relevant playmakers per side is about it, like consistently. Now, I'm not saying Allen can't have his big games where he might score a try or what have you. So he's probably, I'll just say this, while he's starting at fullback, he's very much startable as a 4 CTW. I think that's absolutely fine. But to rely on him each week to score when you got Walker and Reynolds there and Damien Cook is essentially a third playmaker, I can't think he's a reliable option.
No. He's, in the scheme of the week, he's a waiver claim, but
he is.
He's not somebody that I feel amazing about. I'm not really chomping at the bit to get him, but he's someone that I guess you got to settle for given the circumstances of this really brutal injury week and also just the carnage of the Panthers getting all dropped and that sort of thing.
Is Johnson out for a while? I couldn't see that news.
4 weeks he was out.
Okay. So you probably got him for the bye. Look, yeah, he's waiverable if you play the bye round especially.
Yeah. On to the 2:00 Sunday.
Big game.
Knights and Dragons. Yeah, this is shaping up to be a really important one because
pivotal to both teams.
Yeah, this is going to go a long way to determining just if or how high these teams finish in the 8. I think both of these teams probably max out at about 6, the best case scenario from here, and can also miss the finals by a few spots as well. So big game for the Dragons. Look, they need to do something with that rotation of what they're going to do with Ewan Aitken and that sort of thing. There's not really anyone that's a waiver for this. I think Laurie would already be owned. We've mentioned him many times before. Your mate Jai Field looked really good. So you did say last week he's probably a waiver. He'd be the only one that if people didn't jump on could go for.
Yeah. In the right matchup, mate, I think he might explode at some point. I just think his style is very conducive to good Supercoach output. He's definitely, if you weren't convinced before last week, I think seeing him burn off RTS has got to make you feel pretty good about him. So I definitely, again, a waiver for me, especially if you're the Corey Norman owner and didn't get on.
Yep. For the Knights, unchanged team from last week, so I'm not keen on anyone.
Just checking in with Danny Levi, mate. He hasn't really lit it up since he had that big week.
Yeah, but Kurt Mann's on the bench again, so I'm not really. We were optimistic about him the other week because he looked like he was going to get 80 minutes, but with Mann back on the bench in the 14, not someone that you're that keen on. Last game of the round is the Sharks at home to the Manly Seagulls. And for the Sharkies, I'm pretty sure if Fafita's been named, so unchanged team. How good.
Pretty amazing, and there was talk Moylan might be back this week, but they've said he's going to sit out one more week, more than likely. Amazing unchanged side. I expect the Sharks to probably be pretty good this week. One that's sort of snuck under the radar a bit and is somehow having a pretty good Supercoach output is Josh Morris. You'd start him again this week.
Yeah, great matchup for the Sharks, especially being at home. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to add Aaron Gray to that mix as well. Bit of a Rocks or Diamonds player, but you expect a few diamonds here.
Not me. He's shit.
Mate, I know. I just feel there's going to be some falling over the try line here for the Sharks. I have grave fears about this Manly side.
Yeah, no, it's not good. Also, Cole Flanagan, this needs to be said again. he's a great start this week against Manly at home.
He's a good player, mate. I think the hype's real on him. It'll be exciting to watch eventually when he gets more of a permanent spot in an NRL side, just how good he can be.
And for Manly, very, very similar team that what you see most weeks. But obviously Dylan Walker's the big one who's back from those domestic violence charges that were dropped against him. He's going to be a really polarizing player, as he has been throughout his whole career, but just the nature of what he was charged with and how it's being dismissed, there'll be a lot of people who just will not touch him just for moral reasons, really.
Yeah, not something I really, obviously I leave the court system to decide what they do, mate, and I'm not going to buy into any of that personal life stuff. It doesn't really interest me. I just sort of assess how he is on the field here as it stands. I think I'm fine with a waiver claim. I picked him up as a free agent the moment I heard the news leading into this week. Look, at the very least, you can sort of always put him in as a 4CT dub because he does have upside. He's just that guy that can have that monster week. But you've also got to expect there is a bit of flaw about him that's not so pretty. Not always a big work rate guy. I also think he's one that's probably going to be a slow burn. So if you got him now, you can obviously play him in the week 12 bye. You've obviously got Tommy Turbo on the way back. That changes everything.
Yeah, no, that's true. Probably a low end claim with those reasons you've outlaid there. But yeah, he is what he is. Old D Walks. He's always been a bit of a not a grub, but he's been thereabouts. He's been on the borderline of a grub. So people aren't going to be flocking to get him in their team. Anyone else from Manly here? Like Coruscant went off with a sore foot, but he's been named, so there's a bit of uncertainty.
He's named and Finu back to the bench. So the thought that maybe Finu was certainly a lot of people in Classic might have taken the punt there, but surprised with that one. Coruscant looking injured as well. You'd have thought Finu was a chance of his 80 minutes this week, but obviously that's been reversed. So you really just kills the value of both of those two.
It's a bit of a blow because if you're a Finu truther and you believe that Desi wants to get him 80 minutes somehow, this injury to Coruscant getting that knock to the foot was the perfect reason for Desi to say, look, mate, have a week off. We've got Finu. And then that gives Desi that out to start him.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Hasn't jumped with it, so it's a bit of a blow there. So
it's an odd one. Very odd, mate. I'm very surprised to see that. But I guess you could sort of hang on to Finu, though, with a view to the round 12 bye. However, if you aren't relying on him, if you are relying on him as a starter, it makes it very interesting, doesn't it? Whether he's startable there. Because he's needed upside, obviously, to get those startable scores. So, interesting one.
Yeah, no, it is very interesting. Okay, so that's all the games, and we'll kind of just do a recap of the waivers here of our top priorities. So I'll just kind of recap some guys we mentioned. We said Ryan Poppenhuisen, Dylan Edwards, Liam Martin, Mahe Whenua, Nathaniel Roach, Mitch Orbison, AJ Brimson, James Seguiaro, Corey Allen, Will Smith, Jai Field, and Dylan Walker. Of that lot, who gets you the most excited?
I think, just how badly I want to say AJ Brimson, but I reckon there's a chance he's probably not out there in too many. Just for what it could be, I have to put Brimson at the top there.
Yep.
I think I want to be. I'm a Dylan Edwards believer in terms of the consistency, and he came into the season expecting to be the starter. I'm going to say Dylan Edwards as well.
Yeah, I'd probably go Edwards 1 over Brimson, just because I think he's more likely to keep his spot in 3 weeks' time. No, probably not 3 weeks. It's probably 2 weeks' time. I think Edwards is more likely to still be fullback than Brimson. But yeah, I'd love to be proven wrong, because I do think the Titans would have their best team with Mick Gordon on the wing. Other guys that interest me here.
You did mention Asako, man. I'm sorry to cut you off there. I think Asako would have been dropped in a lot of leagues. How high is he on the list?
Behind those guys, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been overly enthralled by Osako, but would you have him higher?
But you presented a good argument there versus Brimson. I think Osako is, especially with the injury to Bird now, just takes one of those backline players out of the rotation, so to speak. So I feel like, and because he's been goal kicking, I think it might look bad this week because I think they won't do much against the Roosters. But I think sort of rest of season, there is a chance Osako finds a bit of form in what should be a slightly better Broncos side.
Yeah, look, 'cause I was just thinking about, as you were saying that, there is a rotation there that does get you remotely excited about Osako, and that's the form of Darius Boyd. Look,
Exactly.
Without Jack Bird there and Jimmy Roberts on the outer, if Roberts goes and you've already lost Bird, all of a sudden you've only got Tony Staggs as a recognised centre in the team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's not out of the realm of possibility if Boyd keeps playing badly that Osako goes to fullback with Boyd to the centres.
Yeah.
And because Boyd actually didn't look that bad at centre last year when he played a couple of games there when Bennett switched it up. Yeah, you've kind of sold me, I guess, on Osako over those guys, but they're all pretty close, I think.
Yeah, I could do a quick revision. I'd say I'll go with you, Edwards one, just because I think there is that long term security. But then I'll go Osako, then Brimson, just because of that exact reason we just said.
Yeah. Other than that, look, Pappenhausen's obviously a gun 1 week play, so he's going to be thereabouts.
Yep.
But other than that, Corey Allen, whatever. We've mentioned him, and also you could take a punt on Seguiaro too if you were hooker needy, but I guess you could see how you go there. But he didn't obviously get named, so that's obviously a bit of a downer. So yeah, that's pretty much it, mate. Is there anything else that you need to talk about before we call today?
Yeah, just quickly, Hudson Young did, again, sort of look pretty decent. Didn't need the try this week to score well. Will sort of continue to be a starter, I think, and obviously be great for that Week 12 bye.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. All right, guys, thanks very much for listening, and we'll catch you again next week.
Cheers, guys.